Actually, I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to do that. Okay. I just flicked it up on accident. I did not mean to do that. So I started therapy like a couple of weeks ago, and the last session, my therapist basically said that she thinks that I am like avoidant. And if you don't know what that means, that's essentially your natural inclination when things sort of get stressful or too personal or too like intense, I guess, is to run away. And that could be anything. That could be like a relationship. That could be a certain situation like work or just anything. Your instinct is to kind of like run away from it and not deal with it and sort of just ignore it. And it definitely makes sense because I've had situations in friendships where I just don't really bring up like really intimate personal things. I'm very sort of hesitant to do that. I can do it on here because I don't know, this is different, you know. It's not the same as actually having a conversation with somebody. Like, I feel like you kind of have, this is kind of like a performance, you know. There's a camera, there's a sort of anonymity you get with performing for a crowd or an audience that isn't really there if you have like a one-on-one conversation with somebody. And I've had this since I was a kid. Like, I am perfectly fine with getting up in front of people and talking, but not so much with like one-on-one interactions or building relationships. And I feel like even if I want to talk to somebody and it's going well, if I can tell they're starting to get more like maybe attracted to me, or more like they're starting to like me more. It's my dad. My dad's pulling out of the driveway. If I can tell that they're starting to like me more, I'll just stop talking to them. And because it's like, it's getting too intense. It's actually making me like vulnerable with them, you know? Which is weird because most people would be like, oh, this person's like, you're becoming friends with them. Why would you like back away? Why would you not just keep talking to them? But essentially what it is if you are avoidant, you had situations that happened to you growing up or just in general in school where you were vulnerable and you were open with people and you got like traumatized essentially. And so your natural instinct is to not do that again. So you can have a friend where you talk to them about basic shit. You talk to them about like sports or I don't know, like your weird interests. But when it comes to like actually getting more like intimate or closer, you don't want to do it because you still have that wall up. And I think that's my main challenge, is to sort of knock that down and not be so guarded and actually like say what I mean. Because sometimes I'm afraid to even like tell my friends about certain things, which you shouldn't really have that. I mean, you can keep secrets from your friends. You don't have to tell your friends everything, but I feel like there's a difference between like having friends and actually feeling like connected to others. Because you can have like 30 friends and you can still feel alone because you don't really have that like connection. And I'm sure you guys have probably had this in your own life where you have a friend that you talk to a lot, but you don't really feel like you're connected to them because you guys don't really talk about anything serious. You don't really have any sort of like bond. You know, you just sort of, you both are kind of just scared to like take it to that next level. Or even, I'm sure, like in a relationship, there's a lot of guys that are kind of scared to make the first move with a girl, even if they really like her and they can tell that the girl likes them too. It's, you just back off for whatever reason because you're afraid of that rejection. And so what do you do about it if you have it? I don't really know yet. One of the things she told me to do was like label emotions. So what I worked on is just labeling the emotion of worry. Like, where do I feel it? What does it feel like? And when you do that, you sort of, you're able to identify your emotions more instead of just like over analyzing, like, all right, why am I feeling this? Why do I feel like this? You can just identify it and be like, okay, I'm feeling like anxious right now. And you can sort of passively observe it instead of like being immersed in it, like completely feeling it to where it's overwhelming. You can kind of keep it at a distance and be like, all right, well, I know what that is. I felt that before. And so I'm happy that I'm doing this because I feel like I've wasted a lot of my youth just sort of being worried about other people and keeping people at a distance. And it kind of, a lot of social media has fueled my fears too, because you see people on there who talk about like, oh, everybody's just selfish, everybody's out for themselves, everybody's like, everybody's just an asshole, like women are like out for themselves, they don't care about guys. And all that stuff is just kind of mental poison, especially if you're kind of like naturally like anxious or inclined towards that. That stuff is just gonna add fuel to the fire. So, and I resent these people for sort of feeding a lot of my insecurities and a lot of my anxieties, but also it's kind of my responsibility. You know, I didn't put myself out there. But I mean, what's done is done, you know? You can't go back. You can't change what's already happened. So I'm actually looking forward to a lot of my, you know, my sessions. So I do think that I'm getting better. You just gotta keep going, you know. Anyways, that's my thoughts. We're gonna do UFC 322 predictions soon. I'm gonna get every fight on the card correct. I'm gonna go fucking 13-0. So get ready for that. I actually think I did pretty bad on UFC 321. But yeah, we got new videos coming out. So if you're still watching, I thank you, and I hope you guys have a good week. Thanks.